Welcome to Makers of Tomorrow, the podcast where each episode we talk with founders, industry leaders, and innovators to explore the latest trends shaping brands and the consumer experience.
We are your hosts, Karine Mallet and Corey Gottlieb, founders of Replica, the social selling platform revolutionizing how brands connect, inspire, and sell in today's digital world. So whether you're a brand leader, entrepreneur, or just fascinated by the evolution of digital commerce, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Our guest, Jim Stroesser, is a serial entrepreneur, visionary brand builder, and the driving force behind some of the most iconic names in the lifestyle and athletic space. From his early days helping revitalize Converse to launching CALI StrongL, Jim has mastered the art of turning passion into powerhouse labels. Today, we're going to talk about what it really takes to scale a brand, how to create an authentic connection in a saturated market, and the untold stories behind some of Jim's boldest career moves. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, I appreciate it. It's great to be here.
We're really happy to have you here. Jim, I remember from our first meeting, your background was so incredible. So why don't we just start off with that? What is your background and how did we get here?
I appreciate that. I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. Simple beginnings, great family, and my dad would say, "Hey, you just got to be educated," right? That was how it worked back then. So I went to school to be a teacher coach. He wanted me to be a businessman and all these grand plans. All I wanted to do was teach and coach. I ended up going to graduate school at University of Arizona as well. And when I got out of being a teacher coach, I said, you know what, this is really not for me. I need to expand my horizons. And I always had been hustling, trying to make money as I was a kid. And everybody's like, you need to get into sales. And I said, well, I really don't want to be in the sales world because I never saw anybody that had a job that I would want to have. And I always thought sales was like, selling used cars or selling insurance, nothing against those industries. So that wasn't for me. And so somebody said, hey, there's a thing called representative sales. I said, well, if I could represent a sports company, it would never feel like a day of work in my life. And so I did. I started applying to all the companies around in the athletic shoe business, anything that I thought would be fun to work for. And I got my first job as an entry-level tech rep at New Balance athletic shoes. And from there, my career was just, was heaven, if you will. And so I did a number of different jobs. I had great brands. I was fortunate to be part of the LA Gear ride that went from 200 million to 900 million. Great success story. Then I went off to Nike and ran one of their second biggest categories up there in Portland. And so I was with Nike about 4 years. After that, I was fortunate enough to be part of Oakley and got involved turning around brands. Because I had seen LA Gear in their turnaround phase, I became kind of a turnaround expert because they give me categories or divisions that were in trouble, and I was supposed to come in there and revive them. So when I came to Oakley, we were a flat brand. It's a great brand, world brand, but they wanted to grow, and their stock was stuck at around $5. The company was stuck at about 200 million. And so we revived it and kind of put some new juice behind it. Took the brand to about 450 million. Stock went to 25. So it was all of a sudden kind of starting this turnaround story. And they went on after I left and sold to Luxottica for like $2.2 billion. So it was a huge deal. But I left Oakley. It was the first company that I was actually lived right by the company. And I was happy. I was doing my thing. But I had an opportunity to get involved as an owner partner of Converse. And this changed my life because when Converse went bankrupt in 2001, everybody was trying to buy that brand. And I had met some folks, Bill Simon and Marty Kaysen, who wanted to partner up with me to buy a brand, start a brand. I said, Converse is the one we need to get to. And if you get that, I'm joining you for sure. And so I came in as an owner partner, ran sales for Converse. We bought it out of bankruptcy for $98 million. And then we turned the brand around. Believe it or not, it was a dead brand with a great history, but it needed a lot of help. And we didn't have a FedEx account when we first started. It was like nothing was working at the old Converse. But we had to come in and revive it, fix the product, fix people, fix the whole story behind it, pricing in the market, what have you. And we ended up selling it to Nike in 2003 for $305 million. We were getting ready to go public. Our brand was just skyrocketing at the time. It was a major success story. They call it the turnaround of the century, if you will, in the sports business. So it was a really cool thing to be part of. One of my most fun rides. I had an unbelievable team with me. And after that, I had to sit out. Nike always makes you sit out whenever you leave the company. So I sat out and I got involved with Ralph Lauren brand on a home project, kind of something outside of my comfort zone, if you will. And then I came back in the industry and was running Quicksilver and Roxy. I became their first head of footwear globally. And so I became the GM of footwear and did that. And then my Converse partners called back, said, hey, we want to make you a CEO. And so I went from entry level to CEO in 21 years. I became CEO of Pony. It's an old school brand that was in major trouble. And so you come in there and you just fix everything. And it's like, sometimes those brands, all the work is done in the first year. And it's like when you have to change the people, change the product, change the marketing, maybe change logos, everything. Every strategy needs to be changed. And so that's what took me to being a CEO. And then I did a couple other CEO positions after that. And you realize you get to the top of the mountain, there's a lot less seats than when you're down below. And you got to really have the right partners. Sometimes you have good partners, sometimes you don't. And I got to a point where it's like, if they're not as dedicated to the cause as me, then I need to move on. And I was like, I need to either start a brand or I need to go buy a brand and control my own destiny. Because, anytime you say, well, I'm an owner partner, you still have partners you have to deal with, whether it's your banker or your owner. So you always have partners. Even today, I have a partner. And so I decided, I was CEO of Audio and Bob Marley at the time. And the company out of New York was going to move the office from San Diego back to New York. And I had already lived in New York. Didn't want to move back there. I said, you know what? This is the time to break it. And so how we started CALI Strong was over in Berlin, Germany, believe it or not. And Jennifer Echeverry and I were over there doing international sales for the companies we were representing. And we decided to start a brand. And so that's where it was written down on a napkin. We said we're going to do it in like 5 years. I think we did it in 2 years. And that's what kind of culminated in starting CALI Strong, our own brand. And I always call it like climbing the back of the mountain, not the front of the mountain. So it's completely different.
Well, one of the reasons why we're so excited to have you on is because your unbelievable run in the corporate world, and then all of a sudden you decide to build your own brand. So I know we made a whole bunch of questions for you, but I knew this was going to happen. I got a break right away.
No problem.
How do you know when it's time to build your own brand? And what's the difference between building your own brand and then jumping into another one to be fixed? Because one has an infrastructure, but maybe really horribly broken. And the other one is an idea that you think can work that you have to build totally from scratch. So what's the mindset that goes into that?
It's a completely different world, as you can imagine. So literally, because whenever you take over a company, we took over Converse, it was still a $100 million company. So it wasn't like there wasn't something there. You just had to take what was there, people, revenue, and fix the pieces that weren't working and take it to another level. That's a much easier job to do than starting a brand from scratch, to be quite honest with you. And so when you're starting your own brand, you're the one that does all the work. You don't have a team say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. You don't have a team. The team is you and your partner, a few partners in the beginning. And as you get bigger, you can add a few more people. But it's like, who empties the warehouse? You do. It's like, if there's no team that, I used to go give speeches at the warehouse when I was at Converse because it was motivating. We had a great warehouse team. I would go out there once every 6 months to do a motivational speech about how good things were going. Well, now I give that motivational speech to me and maybe one other person in the warehouse. We got to get this thing going to get to the next level. So it's a completely different animal. And I decided to do it because I don't know, just the opportunity came up, and it was, that time in my personal life that I was like, you know what? I think this is a road to go down. And it's a little bit crazy, to be honest with you. You got to be a little nuts to start your own brand, especially later in life. And because it is a lot different than running a corporate entity, if you will, and turning around a brand. Because then you have to build that infrastructure yourself. So now 12 years later, we're still standing and we feel good about what we've built. And it's pretty cool. It's still the same principles. It's just different because even when we were running Converse, we couldn't afford any misses either. But when you're an entrepreneurial company, you can afford zero misses. It's like literally every product. I remember when we first started, they would come in, we were actually selling at the local fair, and they go, is that all you have is black shirts? Yes, that was all we had because that's what sold the best. So we couldn't afford to do all these different color shirts. We were very focused. We had a small offering, and it sold, thank goodness. And so now we have colors galore. But at the time, when you're running a small company, you can't afford a whole lot of misses because you can't afford it financially.
So when I first became an entrepreneur, the thing that really resonated most closely with me, and I didn't have the career that you had, but I had a nice career in the corporate world, and selling $1 billion worth of advertising a year for Paramount Pictures or ABC or whoever. But what hit me the most as an entrepreneur is that moment where I had my first bit of success as an entrepreneur, I might have closed $100 million deal with P&G when I was in the corporate side, and it was like, all right, what are we doing for lunch today? But when I felt that first level of success as an entrepreneur, it was like this aha moment. Like, there's no greater high in the world. You've had a lot of corporate successes, and this is your entrepreneurial venture. Like, do you feel that way?
Yes, and you have to readjust your thinking on what's a great success, right? Like literally, we've had people come in from Italy that have been here 3 times to our flagship store in San Diego, and it's just like, who comes back to somewhere from Italy? And we've had it from France, we've had it from all over the country, and it's like those are the little success stories. We're like, wow, we must be doing something right. These people, every time they come to the U.S., they have to come to Cali Strong.
Right.
Or I have a story, but this is kind of how small the world can be. I had 2 kids walk in, and they were from England, and they happen to be a Asian descent. But they walk in, nice guys and whatever, and they come in and they go, "Is this the store that Bill Walton spoke at?" I'm like, "Yes, it is." And I pull it up on Google or whatever, and I show him. I go, "This beach here?"
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "We're huge NBA fans," and he goes, "We saw that, and when we came to San Diego, we had to come to your store because we saw that." And it's just those are little things, really. Okay, so we sold a couple T-shirts,
Right.
big deal, but it's an amazing story when you see those little things happen like that. When it's when you know it's your brand, like when you're running Converse or you're running P&G, yeah, you're an instrumental part of that success, but it's a huge entity. So it's like you can't take credit for everything because you didn't start it from scratch. And so that's probably the most exciting part. It's also a challenging part because then it's like, okay, what else you got for me? You got to keep that momentum going. But those little success stories keep you rolling. But since we're a consumer direct brand, we don't have this big, oh, hey, we sold $100 million to Foot Locker. I got a contract here. And it's like the successes are really with individual people that keep coming
They're
back.
measured. They're more measured. Yeah.
That's how you measure it. Yeah.
Right.
So you've built and scaled several iconic brands. So what are the core values that remain consistent throughout your journey as a leader?
You have to be very authentic to who you are as a brand and whatever that is. And every brand's a little bit different. Oakley's different than Converse, and Nike's different from Converse. Everything's a little bit different. So what is it? What's the authenticity of that particular brand? And then you always have to bring some kind of innovation. And I always look at it, it's like you need to innovate products, great, and maybe you can get there, maybe you can't. You can also innovate the business practices. So like at Converse, we actually closed most of the accounts, and we closed 5 of our top 20 accounts. We closed 2,000 small accounts. We basically cleaned up our distribution by selling less people and did more business with those people, and our business exploded. And so I say you can be innovative in business practices as well as innovative in your marketing, innovative in product, and that's what we try to do at Cali Strong. We have super innovative product as a small company. So when people come in, they go, "I've never seen glow in the dark turn blue." It's because we're the only ones that created it. Or I've never seen a 3-way bucket hat that has interchangeable patches and reversible. And like that's what we try to do. But we don't have an unlimited product resource team that can create new stuff over and over and over to go really compete with the big boys. Not until we take the company to the next level. But we also do innovative business practices. Like everybody that comes in our store, they get a free pair of $15 socks with every purchase. People have talked about that, but nobody's done that. I give away a free pair of our shoes with every skateboard that we sell. And people are like, "Oh, I've never heard of this before." And it's like, so it just comes down to doing things a little bit different. And the industry goes, "Oh, okay, that's kind of cool." So I just think you have to be innovative, you have to be authentic, you have to work hard, and you have to not be afraid to make changes. And I always tell people, my big thing at Converse was embrace change. And I'd pass out that book. I can't remember who wrote it, the big thing about change, accepting change.
Who moved my cheese?
What's that? Yeah, who moved my cheese? I don't know how I forgot. That my people, they'll laugh at me that I forgot the name of that. Who moved my cheese, right? It's
The
a
easiest
simple
book to read. You could do it in an afternoon.
Yeah, I gave everybody that book. So this is, because we're all about creating change.
Right.
And it's like, change is hard for all of us. Even change makers have a hard time with change because it's like the world is going 100 miles an hour and you have to change with it. Otherwise, it's gonna take you out. So make sure your people and your company can accept the changes. But it's like you have to evolve. That's really the name of the game.
So let's talk about Cali Strong for a minute. What was your original vision for the brand, and then where are you now as a brand?
Well, so we started it. I was CEO of Audio Footwear, which is a skateboard company, and I had grand illusions of taking that beyond just skateboarding into the world that I know, team sports and all the rest. And I was also at the same time CEO of Bob Marley, which is something I never even saw. It was like I was forced to take that, and I jumped into it. It was an amazing opportunity that affected my Cali Strong business. I'm going to get to that. So we're doing those businesses, and I was like, you know what? We knew it was going to change. So we knew we had to start something new, and we just said, let's start a brand that could stand for something positive, because there's so many negative things in the world. We just thought, let's just take the positive value side of it, and not corny. It still has to be effective and cool, if you will, but do it in a positive way rather than a negative genre. And so that was really the impetus for starting the brand. And then we also wanted a brand that gave back. And because all the bigger brands, they don't really talk about giving back. That's been the heart and soul of our business. And it's because my partner, Jennifer Echeverria, she's been giving back her whole life. She doesn't need to do this. She's one of the most talented people I've ever met. And so she's like, no, we're going to have to stand for giving back. And I said, okay, I think that's a great thing. And so we've done that we've proved that model, if you will. We've still stood for positive people, and we really, we push away the people that don't fit into our personality of a company. And then we also, we help organizations that help the military families. We help organizations that support kids and do it in a positive way. We support a lot of disabled folks in our business. So we support the disabled community. And those are really the things that are true to our heart, if you will. And so everything we do has been about helping the marketplace, and people appreciate that. So we have a lot of celebrities involved with our brand. So celebrities want to get involved with causes that are going to change the world in some positive way. And so, when I go to my friend Bill Walton, who's passed away, I said, Bill, I want to have you involved with the company. His question is like, I'm in because of you. He goes, but I want to know what you stand for as a company. Sure. And he loved the fact that we were giving back and we stood for positive values, and obviously great product, great people, all those things. And great profits that come with that. So Bill's a partner, Andre Reed, Hall of Fame football player, is a partner, Cheryl Miller, Hall of Fame basketball player, is a partner, Ryan Ochoa is a Disney actor. And from that's just led to more and more celebrities involved with our brand. But the reason why they embrace is, one, they like us as a people. That's always the first step. But really, they appreciate our products, and they appreciate that we give back and support causes that are important to them. And so we do a lot of celebrity events, whether it be, celebrity cornhole events that we put on, or supporting golf events. We've done ping pong events, and then we go to the Super Bowl every year, and that's with our Give Back Foundation, if you will. And so we literally have gave back so much, over 100 foundations over the last 12 years. And we started our own foundation a year ago because of so much give back. Everybody thought we were already a nonprofit. So we were like, you know what? We need to start our own nonprofit so we don't always have to partner up with another one to put on events.
And do you feel that the giving back obviously that gets celebrities to want to be involved with it because they like to be part of that process.
Correct.
Do you think that's a core element that maybe is a tiebreaker when a consumer comes on to look at your products, or it's kind of...
Yes and no, but it's like, when they walk in our stores, they don't really know the whole story behind what we do or don't do. You hope they do. You'll see behind me, I have a lot of folks on our wall. There's 200 people on our wall wearing our gear. Mm-hmm. Most people have no idea what that is or isn't, unless they ask, like, what are those people doing? Okay, those are all celebrities that wear our product organically because they believe in what we do. Oh, what do you do? It's like, so now you have a conversation with someone, and they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I do think it can be a difference maker that you say, I like that product, and I feel good about supporting it because they mirror up to my values, and they're doing good things in the marketplace. So I think it helps, but you can't assume that every customer knows your story.
Right. So I guess the good question would be, how do you tell the story? How do you use that good story and that goodwill that some people know and some people don't? How do you make that a bigger story? How do you expand and reach that story?
It's a challenge all the time. And obviously that's the cool thing about social media. Like literally when we did Converse, there was no social media. That's only 22 years ago, whatever. So the world has completely changed since we turned around Converse. It was all about your relationship with the retailers. Well, today your relationship's all about the consumers. And the reason why you start a direct to consumer brand is because you can talk to them. It used to be you had to go to the gatekeepers, and I had tremendous relationships with Foot Locker and Journeys and the biggest retailers in the country, and you'd go to them and they would tell your story to the consumer. And now you have to be able to tell that story with effective social media, and there's a way to talk to them about what you do. You don't know if it registers all the time as far as what your story truly is, but I think those who have supported this for a number of years, they understand that we stand for good things, and that's why they like to continue buying. But they still won't buy if you don't give them great products.
So, what's one trend in streetwear or sportswear that you think is overhyped and one that is underrated?
I think what's overrated is probably that everybody wants to buy the big established brands. We know they already do. It's proven. But I believe there's a marketplace for something new and different. But it's like there's great brands that are very big, but not everybody wants to embrace those brands, and you always see somebody else coming up the hill. And that's kind of the cool thing about, especially in America. America is very accepting of new things that maybe do it a little bit better. So I think that's a trend that, instead of just going after the established brands, I mean, why even start a new brand if they're only going to drink Starbucks, eat a McDonald's, and buy Nike? There's enough people out there that are willing to go off course and try something different. So that's one of the trends. As far as
just that point, I just that point for a moment. Nike at one point was a startup brand. Under Armour started on the campus of University of Maryland. Lululemon, they saw a niche. Alo Yoga, all of these brands that we think are mainstay right now, they started off as a small brand with a vision. So I totally understand what you're saying. It's, if you see some trends and you think you can do it better, then jump on board. That's the entrepreneurial spirit right there.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, as far as like just fashion trends, if you will, as a small company, you should be able to see those quicker and adapt to them sooner. And because we're in the marketplace, and it's like I'm not in the store like I used to be. Like I used to run the store when we first started. Now we have people that run it, but it's we still get in the store and hear from consumers, and they go, I don't like XYZ. And you have to listen to that. And as a small company, we can adapt very, very quickly. And that's the advantage of being small, or should be, because, you can get caught up in corporate bureaucracy at a big guy. But as a little guy, we can't get caught up in any of this.
That's one of the appeals of having an entrepreneurial company, is being able to shift and adapt and move. We both deal with large corporate businesses. Trying to get them to move course is like a tanker at sea.
Sure.
Trying to get them to turn around, it just doesn't really happen that often, and when it does, it takes quite some time.
Right.
So, all right. So quick questions about the business for a moment. You mentioned your store, so that's your flagship and your only store. I'm imagining you have a robust e-commerce business. So those are your two sales channels?
Yeah, and then we have stores inside the military bases over here. So we actually started our brand inside the military bases, and this is kind of a cool entrepreneurial story. I always tell people, you have an idea. You want to start XYZ brand, service. You have to test it out, see if it works. Because you may think it's the greatest thing in the world, but if nobody buys it, it's probably just your good idea for yourself. Mm-hmm. And so we had an opportunity. We were taking other brands to the military. It's back when we were doing Audio and Bob Marley and a couple other brands. And we were in the military, and we have a $100 million store right down the street from where our flagship is. It's called the San Diego Military Base, close to downtown. And so I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to put our own brand in. So we had talked about starting a brand, and then all of a sudden it got expedited because we had a location. We could put product in there and test the market. And we started out with like 5 collections, and actually started under a different brand name. And we had 3 of the 5 that sold amazingly well. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, we got something that's working. Now that's a great thing. But it's also where the work begins, because now you have to duplicate that and you have to get a little bigger every time. So I always just think you have to go out there and test the market out. And when we started there, we only had a little corner space in this one room, and we sold a lot there. Now we expanded out from there. We ended up taking over this whole room. It was probably a 500 square foot room. Now all of a sudden it became a CALI Strong room, and it was signage up everywhere. It was beautiful. It was always our own store, so we didn't pay rent and we didn't have employees. So it was a great situation. And then all the other stores in the Navy were like, hey, we want to be part of that. So all of a sudden we grew up to 10 stores. And so we actually distribute products through both the Navy and the Marines. And that's helped us build that clientele, especially in the early days, where now we have a brand flagship store. That's our main business, but that's mainly our distribution. It's now our flagship store and the website.
And what percentage does e-commerce play in your total revenue?
Oh, it's not as good as our store, and we haven't really done a national ad campaign, and we're going to. A lot of our web business is driven off of return customers that have come to our flagship store, where they come back and buy again. So
Right.
we are getting ready to do a national campaign. That's our next big step, is to really start driving our online business.
Could you describe your core customers for us?
I'm sorry?
Your core
Could you
customer.
describe your core
Core
customers?
customers, that's a hard question. I mean, in our business, you always say it's youth, anywhere from 8 to 18. We want to focus on being hip and young and all that, but we sell a lot of different consumers. So because we're downtown in a tourist area and we're right next to the convention center, we get a lot of people in of all ages, all over the world. And so it's kind of a cool thing. Same thing in the military. You get people from all over. But like our military business was driven by that young kid, 18 to probably 24 years old, and they're single, they have money in their pocket, they don't have a lot of expenses, and they would buy a lot of our products. So I would say that was probably our core consumer.
Got it.
How do you see the role of Gen Z and a platform like TikTok in shaping the next wave of consumer brands?
TikTok's a phenomenon, obviously, and it's incredible. I mean, everybody's stuck looking at their phone all day. It's a different world. I was just reading something this morning about how AI is going to change the whole influencer business. Because you got to realize influencers have kind of taken over our whole industry. It's like, okay, who's wearing it? Why are they wearing it? Well, now they're saying 80% of the influencers could be taken out by AI influencers. That's kind of exciting because it's like brands can now create their own influencer with AI, and it's just about creating a cool image of your brand. That completely changes the influencer side of it. But it's like, we have a lot of celebrities that are partners with us or good friends of ours that have a lot of followers. Some of that business, I'm mesmerized by it. Why do you have 1.3 million followers and you get all these response and people want to hand you money just because you're an influencer? 20 years ago we didn't have any of that stuff.
It's amazing because as a media guy, back in the day, there were only a few ways to reach large audiences. You had a
Right.
good television show. You'd pick up 8-10 million people with a 30-second commercial, but television has definitely been fragmented to the point where it's very difficult to find those numbers. And the rise of individuals that have those kinds of followings became the mindset of advertisers, like whoever has the audience, let's encourage them to speak. But I think as far as influencers are concerned, we actually met with an interesting company called CALI that is creating avatars that are virtual influencers. And
Right.
now you see in the news, I saw the same articles as you do, that regular influencers could be replaced by digital influencers. But at the end of the day, I think you've really described the differentiator, because those influencers might get paid by brand one today and brand two tomorrow, and they could be competing brands, and there's no authenticity anymore with the influencer. But you talked
Right.
about really growing it from the ground up, where the people who know your brand well are actually very influential when it comes to decision making from the people who know them or follow them. So I
Right.
think as far as influencers are concerned, brands certainly use a lot of them, and AI is going to change that game a little bit. But, the authenticity that a brand like yours puts out in the marketplace, I think is very difficult to replicate.
And I appreciate that because we really focused on that. It wasn't about just let's go out and sell a lot of stuff to as many people as we can and get out of the business. It was like, no, let's just build the brand and the community the way we would really want it to be. And so it's super authentic. We keep gathering more people in our community, and it's very authentic and it's very real. We always call ourselves we're a really big brand inside a small company because we have a huge footprint. And it's like we just started a media company recently. Now we're interviewing all the players at the Super Bowl. We do that because we're also getting close to them and we're able to talk to them about putting our products on them. And so it works. And it's nobody in the industry is doing anything like it. It's a company where we actually go to the NFL draft. We're getting ready to go to the All-Star game for baseball. And so we just do things a little bit differently. Like I said, we used to do podcasts. We actually need to bring those back. But again, it's how many different things can we do well? And that's really always our question. You don't have a large team, so you want to make sure you're doing things great and not doing them half-assed, if you will.
We agree with that. What are the biggest misconceptions that you have seen, as a new entrepreneur? Like if you can go back and tell your new entrepreneur self, avoid these pitfalls, understand what you're about to get yourself into, and try to streamline it. What would you tell your younger self?
You know what? I knew it was hard. And nothing in life is easy to me. It's like even climbing the corporate world. I did that, but it's like it wasn't easy. And so the entrepreneur world is very hard. And it's like, but so is the corporate world. Some people didn't climb up the ladder and some did. I happen to be really good at that. So I was great at that, to be honest with you. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to start a whole different side. I wasn't great when I started being an entrepreneur. It's like you kind of have to learn how to get things done without all the resources. And so I think I already knew, but now 12 years into it, I'm like, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, but that's okay. It's not supposed to be easy. And so I just look at it as like,
if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Everybody would do it,
Right.
And so now it's consistency. And I think one of your questions was about grit. And it's like, you have to work hard. And you have to have that grit to overcome any obstacle that comes your way, where you just have this long-term belief and there's going to be a lot of stuff that gets in your way and you're going to get over those hurdles. And so it's like, I want to go through the wall, and you learn after a few years, you're like, I can go around this wall. I can figure out how to climb over the wall, whatever it is. There's problems that are going to come in your life, and you have to figure out a way to overcome them and get to your end result. And so I don't look at entrepreneurship being harder than I thought it would be, but it's always hard. Everything you do in life is hard, but that's what makes it worthwhile. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it.
So another tough part about becoming an entrepreneur is surrounding yourself with people who you know and trust and can help build off of the same vision. So how have you been able to build a team? Again, you start with an idea. You maybe have a partner, as you mentioned, you have yours, and then you have to build a team. Once you start figuring out your product and you're actually going to build it into a company, now a team must follow. So how do you, kind of vet out the team?
So I don't know if I would want to start a company where I would be the only person. It's a lot better to have a sidekick, if you will.
Agreed.
And so Jen and I are 50-50 partners. She owns 51, I own 49. So that together we make every decision, if you will. She just has the last vote. But so how do you, with two of you, now you have to find team members that gel with both of you. It's different than if you're just the head person. And I wouldn't start a company with, I don't think, by myself. It's a lot better to have two, because Jen thinks completely different than me, but we think alike in so many ways too. And there's a lot of times where I can help her and she can help me. And then we say, okay, we want to bring in this person. We discuss it and we just said, can they help both of us, not just one of us? Right. And that's the key. So sometimes they work out. I say most of the time it works out. And when it doesn't work out, it's just like, let's just cut bait, if you will, and do it with dignity, because that person was probably brought into our company to help us at that time. And then you might outgrow them. And sometimes people get a little resentful of that. Like, oh, I was the one that helped you do X, Y, Z. And it's like, well, now we're moving on. And so it's important to find people that can adapt with you. But like the cool thing for our company is we've made everybody that's close to us and has helped us a part owner in the company. So we give them stock in our company. We did that at Converse, and it was an amazing thing. Absolutely. The secretaries were still participating in the growth of the company. And so even when somebody doesn't help us anymore, they're still part of our company.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, they still own our stock, even though they may not talk to us
Well,
because they're doing their thing. But that core nucleus has grown with us the entire time, and it's
I
a
think
pretty cool thing to watch.
yeah, I think the most important thing that you mentioned for people with ideas is really to try to avoid doing it on your own. Try to
Right.
find that trusted partner. I mean, obviously, Karina and I are partners in this podcast, but we also have a business called Replica Software together. This is my third or fourth entrepreneurial venture and probably my most successful one because we're working on it together. And as you rightly point out, you kind of come together because you have the same core values. And ultimately, when you make decisions together, they're stronger and they're also defensible because you want to make those decisions work. So I
Right.
think that's really important.
Well, Corey, you probably have this same case. There's some great friends of mine. They bring the same opinion that I have. So it's like I could easily put one of them right next to me, but that's not going to help me.
Right.
I need somebody that looks at the world completely different and calls on my BS, and I do the same to her. We're moving the company and thinking differently. Because if it's just me next to another partner who thinks just like me, what good is that?
Or just
You know?
yeses you, even if
Yes.
they
Yeah.
believe.
You're right. Just is a yes man.
Yeah.
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 So, what's one failure that you had that taught you the most about leadership and resilience?
Well, it kind of comes down to pick great partners because I had a business with someone that was not a great partner, and I learned that lesson firsthand, and it's painful. Good friend, good business acquaintance, and probably not the best decision to get in business with them. What that comes down to is trust your instincts because I said no initially. My gut told me I shouldn't do this, even though this was a friend and a good business acquaintance. I said no initially and then was talked into it or accepted it. And so I just trust your instincts and make sure you get around good people that are going to bring out the best in you and vice versa, because it's painful to have bad business partners. It's like going through a divorce, to be honest
Yeah,
with
it's
you.
a brand killer too. I mean, if you
Yes.
really, can't get along with your partner and don't see eye to eye, leadership has to be in sync. Otherwise, the brand's vision disappears and the implementation of that vision dies with it.
Yeah. And you know what? You have to be flexible because we all have ideas of what the world should be or what our brand world should be. And then you have to step back from it and go, okay, what's really going on here? And for somebody to call BS on you and say, hey, you need to look at it this way.
Yeah.
And sometimes you look and say, you know what, that's the right thing, or not. I might just say, no, we need to keep going. This is the right way to go. Let's keep doing it. But over time, things are changing all the time. So now you have to look at it from a different perspective and be flexible enough to allow the business to come to you rather than keep trying to do the same thing over and over again.
Well, Jim, you have had an extremely successful corporate career. You became an entrepreneur. You launched an incredible brand. This is the entrepreneur's dream. If you, as a listener, are fired up by what you heard today and want to dive deeper into the movement, head over to calistrong.com. That's CALIStrong.com. Check out their gear, check out their apparel, the message, and the energy. That's all about living strong, playing bold, and repping the California spirit. Jim, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an amazing conversation and very, very inspirational.
I appreciate it. You guys have been great.
Thank you, Jim.